In the heart of Canada's ancient forests, a park ranger's ordinary patrol turned into an extraordinary battle for survival. When a desperate cry echoes through the trees, he must choose between his safety and saving a life. Will he risk it all for a creature in pain? Join us as we uncover a tale of courage, compassion, and an unexpected bond that challenges everything we know about the wild. In the heart of Canada's ancient forests, where towering trees whispered secrets to the wind and sunlight danced through the leaves, a remarkable incident was about to unfold, one that would challenge the very essence of compassion and courage. The forest, a sanctuary of life, was overseen by a dedicated ranger named Ethan, a man whose bond with nature ran deep. Every day, he woke up before dawn, lacing his sturdy boots and preparing for another day of exploration and protection. On this particular day, the air felt different, charged with an unexplainable tension. As Ethan patrolled the winding trails, he took in the sights and sounds: the rustle of leaves, the distant call of a woodpecker, and the soft murmur of a nearby stream. But amidst this natural symphony, an unfamiliar sound pierced through, a haunting echo that sent chills down his spine. It was not the earthy sounds of the forest he knew so well. It was something else entirely. Pausing in his tracks, Ethan's instincts kicked in. Years of experience had taught him to trust his gut, especially when it came to the forest's unspoken language. He glanced around, his senses heightened, searching for the source of the unsettling cries. They resembled the desperate pleas of an injured creature, a sound that tugged at his heartstrings and drew him in against his better judgment. Compelled by an unyielding curiosity, Ethan began to move deeper into the thicket, stepping carefully over gnarled roots and fallen branches. Each step brought him closer to the source of the sound, and the air thickened with a sense of urgency. The forest, usually a place of solace, now felt ominous, as if it were guarding a secret too heavy to bear. As he navigated through the underbrush, Ethan's heart raced, a mix of fear and determination coursing through him. When he finally reached a clearing, the sight before him was one he could never have anticipated. In the center of the clearing, a bear, a magnificent creature, strong yet vulnerable, was ensnared in a grotesque trap set by hunters. Its limbs were tangled in thick barbed wire, and it wore a noose around its neck that constricted with every frantic movement. The bear's eyes, wide with terror and pain, locked onto Ethan's, and in that moment, the connection between them was palpable. The bear was not just an animal in distress. It was a being pleading for help, a cry that resonated deep within Ethan's soul. Ethan's breath caught in his throat as he took in the distressing sight. The bear's powerful frame was marred by bloodied wounds, and each desperate attempt to escape only caused it further agony. It was a heartbreaking tableau, one that ignited a fierce determination within him. Though he was aware of the danger that an injured bear could pose, the instinct to help outweighed his fears. He had seen enough suffering in the wild. This time, he would not turn his back. With a firm grip on his rifle, Ethan knew he had to approach with caution. The bear's instinctual drive to protect itself could lead to a violent response, and he had to be prepared. Yet, as he took slow, measured steps forward, he was struck by the bear's eyes. Those deep, expressive pools of emotion that seemed to convey untold stories of survival and struggle. In that moment, Ethan felt a profound sense of empathy, as if the bear was not just a wild creature, but a fellow spirit caught in an unjust predicament. "Easy, buddy," he murmured softly, keeping his voice low and soothing. "I'm not here to hurt you." The words felt inadequate, but he hoped they would convey a message of peace. As he drew nearer, he made a choice that would change everything. He dropped his rifle to the ground, relinquishing the only weapon he had for protection. This act of vulnerability was not one of recklessness, but a testament to his desire to show the bear he meant no harm. To his relief, the bear seemed to sense the shift in energy. Its body language softened, the tension in its muscles easing ever so slightly. Ethan knelt beside the bear, keeping his hands visible and open, a gesture of trust in a world that had shown the creature nothing but cruelty. He could see the barbed wire digging into the bear's flesh, and as he began to examine the cruel trap that had ensnared it, he felt a surge of determination. With each careful movement, he worked to free the bear, whispering words of comfort as he gently unwound the barbed wire from its legs. The bear groaned in pain, but Ethan remained focused, determined to alleviate its suffering. He understood that this creature had lived in constant fear of hunters and traps, and he was determined to be a force of good in its life, even if just for this moment. As Ethan worked diligently to free the bear, a wave of emotions washed over him: sadness, frustration, and a deep-rooted anger toward those who would cause such suffering. He could not fathom how anyone could inflict pain on such a magnificent animal. With each piece of wire he removed, he felt a sense of hope begin to blossom, mingled with the stark reality of the bear's condition. There were still wounds to address, and the trap around its paw remained, a final obstacle to freedom. With a deep breath, Ethan gathered his courage and focused on the last trap. He knew that freeing the bear could have dangerous repercussions. It might attack him in a panic or simply run away. But he had come this far, and he could not abandon the bear now. Trusting his instincts, he cautiously unlatched the trap, feeling the weight of the moment settle heavily on his shoulders. At last, the bear was free. It stumbled awkwardly, its body weak from the ordeal it had endured. Ethan stepped back, watching as the bear attempted to regain its footing. He felt a mixture of relief and concern. The bear's journey to recovery was far from over. The injuries it had sustained were severe, and though it had escaped the physical trap, the emotional scars would linger. Instead of bolting into the safety of the forest, the bear remained still, lying down in the clearing. Ethan felt a pang of sadness as he observed the creature's battered body. It was clear that this bear had endured days of torment, and the thought of what it had suffered weighed heavily on his heart. He knelt beside the bear once more, speaking softly, trying to reassure it that it was safe now. As time passed, the bear attempted to rise, but its legs buckled, and it fell with a heavy thud. Ethan rushed to its side, instinctively putting a comforting hand on its side. "You're okay," he whispered, his voice steady and calm. "We'll get you help." He knew that this bear needed more than just freedom. It needed urgent medical attention. The hunters who had set the traps were still out there, and he couldn't bear the thought of the bear being caught again. In a moment of clarity, Ethan grabbed his radio and called the local wildlife clinic, explaining the dire situation. "I've found a bear in distress, trapped and injured. We need help immediately." The urgency in his voice was palpable, and he could hear the response team mobilizing on the other end. He felt a glimmer of hope. Help was on the way. Minutes felt like hours as Ethan waited, kneeling beside the bear, who seemed to sense his presence and calmness. He could see the bear's breaths becoming steadier, even as it struggled to adjust to its newfound freedom. Soon, the distant sound of sirens echoed through the trees, a beacon of hope cutting through the thick tension of the forest. The wildlife rescue team arrived, a group of dedicated individuals equipped with tranquilizers and medical supplies, ready to assist the distressed animal. As they assessed the bear's condition, Ethan felt a sense of relief wash over him. The team worked quickly, administering tranquilizers to ease the bear's pain and prepare it for transport. They carefully examined the wounds, noting the severe infections that had begun to take root. Ethan listened intently, his heart sinking at the thought of what the bear had endured. The veterinarians concluded that the bear had likely been trapped for days, suffering without food or water, and the urgency of their task became clear. With precision and care, the team disinfected the bear's wounds and began stitching up the most severe injuries. Ethan watched in awe as the specialists worked together, their hands steady and skilled. He felt a sense of camaraderie with these individuals, all united by a common goal: to save a life. As the bear was prepped for emergency surgery, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this incident was just one of many. The thought of other animals suffering in similar traps ignited a fire within him. Days passed as the bear remained under observation, sedated and receiving the care it desperately needed. The staff at the clinic monitored its recovery closely, and Ethan visited often, checking in on the progress. Each time he stepped into the clinic, he was met with the bear's fierce spirit. It was a survivor, and he could see it fighting to regain its strength. However, discussions among the rescue team turned ominous. The idea of releasing the bear back into the wild was met with hesitation. Ethan voiced his concerns, passionately arguing that the dangers of the forest, filled with traps and hunters, were too great. "We can't send it back into that hell," he implored. "It will only suffer again, and this time we might not be able to save it." Despite his protests, the reality of their situation became increasingly apparent. Resources were limited. They could only keep the bear for so long before it would be necessary to release it back into the wild. The thought of sending the bear back to a world of danger weighed heavily on Ethan's heart, and he knew he had to act. With a heavy heart, Ethan resolved to return to the forest, determined to track down the hunter responsible for the bear's suffering. Armed with evidence gathered from the clinic and fueled by the urgency of the situation, he approached the local police station. The collaboration with the animal control team was essential, but Ethan felt an overwhelming need to take matters into his own hands. Days turned into a frantic search. He set up hidden surveillance cameras in the areas of the forest known for hunting activity, hoping to catch the perpetrator in the act. Each night, he reviewed the footage, his determination unwavering, but he found no trace of the man who had set the cruel traps. Time was running out, and the veterinarians had warned him that the bear's release was imminent. Anxiety gnawed at him, but he refused to give up. One fateful night, Ethan was jolted awake by the alarm from one of the wildlife cameras he had installed. His heart raced as adrenaline surged through his veins. Grabbing his flashlight, he set out into the darkness, every shadow in the forest looming like a potential threat. He followed the tracks carefully, his instincts guiding him closer to the source of the disturbance. As he ventured deeper into the woods, a chilling silence enveloped him, heightening his senses. Just ahead, he spotted a newly set trap, a clear indication that the hunter was nearby. Suddenly, he saw a dark figure emerging from the shadows, and without a moment's hesitation, Ethan launched himself at the man, fueled by a mix of fear and righteous anger. A struggle ensued, a chaotic clash between man and man, but Ethan's resolve proved stronger, and he managed to subdue the hunter. Breathless, Ethan quickly called the police, alerting them to the situation. The authorities arrived promptly, and the hunter was apprehended, his confession spilling forth like a torrent of regret. He revealed the locations of all the traps he had set, and the police worked together with animal control to dismantle the cruel devices scattered throughout the forest. As the hunter was taken away, Ethan felt a wave of relief wash over him. He had done what he set out to do, but the victory felt bittersweet. The bear's fate still lingered in the balance. Days passed, and with the newly secured evidence, the wildlife clinic prepared to release the bear back into its home. Finally, the moment arrived. The bear was transported in a sturdy truck, and Ethan stood at the ready as the vehicle came to a halt in a remote part of the forest. As the rear gate opened, the bear emerged, a powerful silhouette against the backdrop of towering trees and the endless sky. Everyone held their breath, anticipating what would happen next. To their astonishment, the bear did not bolt away. Instead, it paused, turning to look back at the people who had fought for its freedom. In that fleeting moment, it felt as if time stood still. The bear's eyes, filled with a mixture of gratitude and uncertainty, locked onto Ethan's gaze. Tears welled in his eyes as he understood the depth of that connection. They were two souls who had crossed paths in a world that often seemed indifferent to suffering. The bear finally turned away, venturing into the depths of the forest, disappearing among the tall trees. As it moved forward, Ethan felt a sense of hope blossom within him. The forest, once again alive with possibility, had given the bear a second chance. A chance to heal, to reclaim its life, and to exist free from the shackles of human cruelty. Ethan knew that the journey ahead for the bear would not be easy, but he also understood that it was a journey worth taking. With the sun setting behind him, casting golden rays through the trees, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He would continue to protect these wild spaces, advocating for the voiceless and standing against those who sought to exploit the beauty of nature. As he walked back through the forest, he knew that the echoes of their encounter would resonate within him forever. The bond between humans and animals, forged in moments of compassion, was a powerful reminder of the responsibility that lay within each of them to safeguard the wild and the wonders it held. And with that thought, Ethan ventured deeper into the woods, ready to protect the spirit of the forest that had so profoundly touched his heart. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the forest, Nathan felt a sense of peace wash over him. He had faced danger, fought for justice, and most importantly, helped a creature in need. Before you leave, don't forget to like the video, turn on notifications, and subscribe to the channel for more stories that celebrate the bond between humanity and nature.